We begin with the latest on the coronavirus here in Japan. A government panel of experts has given the green light for the health minister to approve the use of 2 more vaccines, one developed by U.S. drug maker Moderna, the other by British-based AstraZeneca.
They concluded that both vaccines can be approved.
The health minister suggested he'd officially authorize them as early as Friday. Officials may later recommend a minimum age limit for the AstraZeneca vaccine because of the risk of rare blood clots. The EU drugs regulator published data that shows young people are more likely to develop them. The Moderna vaccine would be administered at large-scale vaccination sites due to open in Tokyo and Osaka on Monday. Only the Pfizer vaccine is currently being used in Japan, as the law requires clinical trials in the country. Inoculation started in February for frontline workers, then broadened to include senior citizens in April. Less than 5% of Japan's population have received at least 1 dose, by far the smallest proportion among G7 nations. Meanwhile, the government is considering expanding the state of emergency to the southern prefecture of Okinawa. That's in response to an urgent call from the governor, who's struggling with a rapid surge in COVID-19 cases. Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide says he'll consult an expert panel on Friday on expanding it to Okinawa. The state of emergency already covers 9 prefectures, including Tokyo, Osaka, and Hokkaido. Nationwide, more than 5,700 new infections were reported on Thursday, as well as over 100 deaths. The Israeli military and the Palestinian militant group Hamas continue to fight despite diplomatic efforts to bring the conflict to an end. The World Health Organization has urged a humanitarian truce to allow access for aid. The WHO regional director on Thursday called for allowing patients and humanitarian health teams to enter and exit from the Gaza Strip. He said the health system there already faces critical shortages of essential medicines and supplies amid the coronavirus pandemic. On Wednesday, U.S. President Joe Biden urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to seek a path to a ceasefire. Biden reportedly said he expects a significant de-escalation within a day. Now, Egypt is also engaged in mediating efforts. It has ties with Hamas, which effectively controls the Gaza Strip. Egypt is one of the few Arab nations that have diplomatic relations with Israel. Musa Abu Marzouk of Hamas's political bureau said on Lebanese TV he expects to see a ceasefire within a day or 2. But Netanyahu said he's determined to continue the operation until the security of Israeli citizens is restored. The Israeli military on Thursday continued airstrikes and artillery shelling on Hamas strongholds. Hamas fired rockets and mortars at Israeli military positions in southern Israel. The fighting that started last week has claimed 227 lives in Gaza and 12 in Israel. U.S. President Biden and his South Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in are set to hold talks Friday in Washington, and diplomacy with North Korea will be a key topic. A U.S. senior administration official told reporters its policy on the North will build on agreements made by previous administrations. The official made the remarks during a teleconference on Wednesday. The Biden administration recently completed a review of U.S. policy on the North. The senior official said the administration's policy aims to explore diplomacy with Pyongyang to make practical progress that increases the security of the United States and its allies. The official did not give any details, but said Washington intends to build on agreements made in 2018 at the first-ever U.S.-North Korea summit in Singapore, where leader Kim Jong-un affirmed he would work toward the complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Biden has reversed many of his predecessor's policies since taking office, but his administration may be signaling its intention to respect agreements made by Kim. This could be aimed at laying the groundwork for the early resumption of denuclearization talks. The United States has waived sanctions on a company behind a controversial project to build a Russian natural gas pipeline to Germany. The Biden administration is still imposing sanctions on Russian companies and ships working on the pipeline. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in a statement he had determined it's in the national interest of the U.S. to waive the application of sanctions on Nord Stream 2 AG, its CEO Matthias Warnig, and its corporate officers. Nord Stream 2 is owned by the Russian state company Gazprom, with investment from several European companies. The administration of former President Donald Trump opposed the project, warning it would heighten European dependence on Russia and increase Russian influence. Biden is also against the $11 billion project, which is already nearly complete. Critics in the U.S. of the pipeline had hoped to stop it with sanctions, but Biden is reportedly reluctant to damage the relationship with Berlin. Germany had strongly opposed any U.S. sanctions, and the country's foreign minister praised the decision to waive as a constructive step. Blinken said Wednesday's actions demonstrate the administration's commitment to energy security in Europe, consistent with the president's pledge to rebuild relationships with allies and partners in Europe. He added the administration will continue to oppose the completion of this project, and the U.S. opposition to the pipeline is unwavering. Shifting now to Myanmar, where armed civilians and ethnic forces are clashing with the military. The United Nations has announced the total number of displaced people in the country surpassed 50,000 since the coup on February 1st. Fighting between the military and armed civilians has intensified in the town of Mindat in northwestern Chin State, where the military declared martial law last week. A local humanitarian organization says at least 7,500 people fled the town as the junta forces advanced. They're reportedly in dire need of food and other necessities. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said on Tuesday access to the displaced people is limited due to the security situation. It says an estimated 42,000 are internally displaced in the country's southeast as armed clashes between ethnic Karen forces and the junta continue unabated. Now, the Japanese government says Myanmar's embassy in Tokyo has informed it the passports of 2 of its diplomats have been revoked. Japan's chief cabinet secretary told reporters on Thursday the foreign ministry received an official diplomatic document to that effect from the embassy. He said Japan is considering how to deal with the matter given the current situation in Myanmar. Foreign ministry officials say the 2 diplomats used social media to protest the coup. In other news, the Indian Navy continues its search and rescue operations for the crew of an offshore drilling barge that sank in a cyclone. 188 crew members have been rescued so far off the coast of Mumbai, with 36 still missing. 37 bodies have been recovered. Cyclone Tauktae made landfall Monday in the state of Gujarat. The storm has weakened into a tropical depression. Prime Minister Narendra Modi made an aerial survey of the affected areas to assess the relief measures. Over 16,000 houses were damaged in the state, and about 6,000 villages suffered blackouts. A relief aid package totaling $136 million has been announced to help those affected. Tauktae is the second major cyclone to hit India since the onset of the pandemic last year. The May Grand Sumo Tournament is now in its final stretch for the 15-day contest, and that means it's time to bring in our resident sumo expert Morita Hiroshi to fill us in on the race for the Emperor's Cup.
We start with some disappointing news. Ozeki champion Asanoyama will sit out the remainder of the competition. Reportedly, he was found to have gone to nightclubs during the current state of emergency, even though non-essential socializing is strictly prohibited under the Sumo Association's guidelines. A harsh penalty is expected to be handed down to the 27-year-old, as the rank of Ozeki carries a lot of responsibility. Shifting our attention to the championship race, Ozeki returnee Terunofuji suffered his first defeat on day 11, but he still came into day 12 holding sole possession of the lead with just 1 loss. Terunofuji lost on the previous day by a rule violation as he pulled his opponent's top knot. Let's see if he can bounce back from that demoralizing defeat. Onosho comes in hard, but Terunofuji holds his ground. Terunofuji gets a firm grip on Onosho, drives him back and out. Terunofuji goes to 11-1. Nipping at the heels of Terunofuji are two men, Ozeki Takakeisho and Hinamaku rank fighter Endo, each with 2 losses. Endo was a huge star coming out of college. He's in pursuit of his first championship in the professional ranks. Goto Eko gains a strong inside position and forces Endo back. Endo resists, but Goto Eko finishes him off. Endo takes a step back in the title race. Two-time champ Takakeisho is looking sharp by racking up wins with his lethal thrusting attack. Ichinojo is his foe, who's also doing well at just 3 losses. Ichinojo knocks Takakeisho back. Takakeisho fights back. The Ozeki almost goes down, but quickly recovers and rallies with hard thrusts and puts Ichinojo away. Takakeisho remains at 2 losses. All right, here are the standings after 12 days of action. Terunofuji is still the tournament leader at 11 wins and 1 loss. Takakeisho is in Terunofuji's rearview mirror at 10-2. And that's it for today's Sumo Sum Up. Make sure to watch the final 3 days to find out who comes out on top on Sunday.
All right, looking forward to that Ozeki showdown to finish the tournament. Next in weather, many people here in Japan will likely need their umbrellas as we head into Friday. Our meteorologist John Thuno has the forecast for here and elsewhere in our World Weather Report.
Hello, looks like that we're going to be dealing with a lot of wet weather across Japan as we go through Friday. We do have the rainy season front that's in place. We've been seeing a lot of rain, especially toward the west. I mean, we're seeing some places getting at least 190 millimeters of rainfall. And we will be dealing with that type of amount of rainfall across the central areas of Japan as we go forward in time. Low pressure system will be continuing to develop itself, really tapping in on this warmer stream from the south. And so we'll see that development continue to produce that rainfall as we go through Friday. And those up toward the northern areas of Japan, such as Hokkaido, you're going to be picking up on the action as well. So all across the country, at some point during the day, we'll be dealing with some rain. So have the umbrellas nearby, pretty much an umbrella action day all across the country. A high of 18 degrees in Sapporo, 25 in Tokyo. Even down toward Okinawa, we'll see the rain picking up there on Friday with a high of 30 degrees. So yeah, have those umbrellas handy. And especially for the western areas of Japan, be on the lookout for potentially some of the heavier rainfall that could keep the ground a little bit more unsettled. Meanwhile, across the southern areas of the United States, I mean, we've been getting some really heavy rainfall, flooding into places like Houston and also into Louisiana, places like Lake Charles, Louisiana, getting more than 400 millimeters of rainfall in just the past few days. We're going to see another chance for some rain as we go throughout the day on Thursday, and we're seeing the possibilities of stronger storms up toward the northern areas of the United States. And we'll see the moisture flow continue to move into the southern areas of the United States. And as a high-pressure system sits off the coast of the Carolinas, we're talking about a real boost in temperatures. It's going to be on the hot side, definitely above average for this time of year as we head toward the weekend. Look at this, 30 degrees coming up in Atlanta. Chicago also hitting 30 degrees. So be on the lookout, because this is really unusually hot for you. Still rain expected from Oklahoma City into Houston with a high of 26 on Friday. Hope you have a good day wherever you are.
The World Health Organization urges avoiding international travel because of a widely spreading coronavirus version that started in India. In Iceland, the U.S. Secretary of State says America supports peaceful use of the Arctic area during a meeting of Arctic Council nations. Syrians face anger from Lebanese as they prepare to complete ballots at Syria's embassy in Lebanon as early voting begins in Syria's presidential election. And in Malawi, officials destroy COVID-19 vaccines, although the African Union and WHO said the shots would be safe until July.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been holding a security cabinet meeting to discuss a possible ceasefire in its 11-day conflict with Hamas. It comes after US President Joe Biden called for a de-escalation. There have been calls for an immediate ceasefire at a special session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, where the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, described Gaza as hell on earth for children. The BBC has apologised following an independent report into how it secured a landmark 1995 interview with Princess Diana. The report concluded the journalist, Martin Bashir, used deceitful behaviour, including faking bank documents, to gain her trust. And opinion polls in Japan show a vast majority of people are opposed to the staging of the Olympics in Tokyo in July.